Welcome to Together We Rise. My name is Nikia Toll,
And I'm Sean.
and today we're actually asking the question, can you hear me? And I just want to share a short story with you. When I was actually in high school, and I had an incident, a very personal incident that happened to me, which resulted around sexual assault. And I actually, you think your teachers and your counselors are supposed to be the people that's there that you can go and talk to that will actually really listening or hear you. And I had this one counselor that I went to, and as I was sharing with her the incident and what happened and how I felt, she completely just overlooked, or I guess didn't hear anything that I said, because the response that came back was just completely shocking to me. It was just like, oh, okay, that happened to you. So, how's your grades going? And I'm like, okay, what I just told you had nothing to do with my grades. I just let a
Mm.
person know that I'm being sexually assaulted, and her first thing was wondering about my grades and how things are going. And of course, in that situation, your grades are affected. And so that was my first time actually experiencing not being heard at all. That I was just completely overlooked, completely, like the words that was coming out my mouth was not being heard by someone that should have been there to protect or should have been there to listen and then give you tools or avenues to be able to help you.
Did that when that happened? What did you end up doing? Like, what happened after that? Like, what?
It
What?
basically didn't go anywhere because the person that was sexually assaulting me had authority over me. So, at that time, the person that I thought could help did absolutely nothing. So it took a little bit more longer for me to get assistance in that area.
Wow, that's crazy. And I know, actually, you write about that in your book too, right? Like
Yes,
that's so. Which book is that you
that
write?
is the one. I'm crying. Are you listening?
Okay, so people, you need to get that book. You need to get that book. But I have, I was actually thinking when we was coming up with this, like, that whole part of "Can you hear me?" and I was, I had a couple of different options and things that so felt. I guess it felt a lot of different times people wasn't hearing me, but because you can always deal with that like with your kids and your kids don't listen to you. Even though our
Yeah.
kids, well, we know our kids. And, we but sometimes you're as a parent you feel like you're talking to a brick wall, or you're not they're not listening, or there's times that you could go in different areas of your life. And the one that actually I decided to pick out, well, I think I was going to go a different way, but I just kind of like hit me, was just even at work. So, I used to be actually a executive for the Boy Scouts. And maybe I shouldn't have said that name, but anyway, that's where I was working at. And the thing is, I got hired at the Boy Scouts
Mm-hmm.
because I was a youth pastor prior to that. And I personally never seen a black Boy Scout before. So I grew up in New York City, never saw an actual Boy Scout hit the streets,
Really?
never seen that.
Wow.
So besides television, so the reason why they hired me was because I did not have traditional Boy Scout ideas. So if you ever know scouting and you're inside that organization, is very self absorbed, right? Everything that they know is about tradition, and anything else outside of that is really met with like, whoa, that's not what we do. So when I came in as an executive, basically your my design was to reach out to inner city, to get more African American youth, specifically to join, and
Mm-hmm.
then also other minority groups, but also anyone to join. But I was specifically designed to reach out to the African American community. And here's the thing: when my first year there, I blew all the records. I
The
mean, I
recruiting
was doing
numbers.
doing great numbers. They was like, man, you could be. And there's a whole track inside that organization. You could go all the way up to the executive positions that's paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's like big money, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it was like, man, you could be on that. And I think that became a lot of infighting for those people who was there
Right.
longer, and so happened not to be black either. And so I won't call them inbreeding. That's not right. But that, yeah, I'm saying that's not right. I'm not saying they're inbreeding. I'm not saying that, or like they're. Anyway, that's that part. But
So
my
you felt
thing,
like you wasn't
well,
heard
well,
because
I'm
of
getting
that?
to that part. It was that the second year, like because there was so like people were so upset, it was like they started to sabotage, literally sabotage, and my um top leaders wasn't listening to me. I'm like, look, like people will call meetings and like in secret with groups and then say I didn't come to it. Right. And like
Hmm.
and then I'm saying, well, no one told me. No one like told me about that. I mean, and they didn't listen. They never listened to me. None of the executive never listened to it. And I tell you the whole thing came toxic. I mean, so toxic when I was going to work, I would have sickness. I would feel
Hmm.
like literally like I want to throw up. I was like, this is like just like because I knew the type of atmosphere I was gonna go
Hmm.
into, and that atmosphere was just so you could feel the tension in
Hmm.
the air, right? And I mean I could go in a lot deeper in there, but that was
I
just
can see
just
that that
just
kind of
like
really affected you.
it affected me. You remember? I don't know. There was a song by Jay Z. You know, the Book of Jay Z. If you wanna, I think it said the this industry is shady and need to be taken over. And literally, I know I used to play that song in that particular bar. I was like, the Boy Scouts is shady. They need to be taken over. And but well, they had a lot of problems after that.
But you're gonna
But
digress now.
I'm just saying that was just like crazy. And the thing is, I have a love for the organization
Yes.
because it wasn't the organization. Actually, some of the people there, I did keep some friendships, but just the atmosphere is toxic, and when
Hmm.
you're not being heard, you don't feel like you have an outlet from
And you
that.
don't feel like you have a voice. That's the biggest thing. It's like when you're not being heard, it's like you being stripped of your voice.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, let me ask this: when you feel that your voice has been stripped from you, what type of hole? Because we call it the rabbit hole. So,
Right. Yeah, we do.
what is that cycle looks like when your voice has been stripped and no one is hearing you,
Hmm.
and you feel like that you can't say the things that needs to be said?
Well, I know when you're feeling that, to me, there's a couple of different things, right? One of the biggest ones is you start becoming like this passive aggressiveness that
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yes.
you're like if you're not always a person that like to head on fight with things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people are, but other people they're more of a you don't want to directly impact that. So you're
Yes.
like, man, you throwing these little underhanded jabs at people. They're doing little underhanded jabs at you. They trying to stab you in the back without
Right.
nobody saying,
Saying
and you trying to
anything.
stab them in the jugular. I mean, I know. I mean, I'm sorry. For any one of y'all people out that, but I'm just being real. That's like I remember that. And I'm like, these people need to get. I
Yeah.
want to say. I
Ran over
think
with a bus.
whenever we bust,
That's
you
his
see, you
favorite
gonna
saying.
understand, fake people. One of my sayings are in prayers for my enemies to get ran over by buses. It's not the most Jesus thing to do,
But
but
it is.
Jesus was
But it
working
is
with
a
me.
thought
But
that
it's
you
a
have,
thought. I
right?
mean, I'm
It's a
just saying it's a
thought.
thought, and it's always a sideway prayer
Well,
sometimes.
another thing that I say that usually happens, and this was mine, this was my biggest one that I used, was withdrawing
Mm-hmm.
and going internal. So, that for me, I like to isolate myself. When I felt like that
Yeah.
I'm not being heard, my biggest thing is, and this is my pet peeve saying, I'm done. So
Oh
when
yeah,
you
yeah. I
hear
heard
me
that said
say
before.
I'm done, that means I'm shutting it down and just let me be isolated. Let me have my time to woosah, because that's just me. I just withdraw and I take everything internal. But I realize that that's not a good way to be,
Eh,
because when you shut down, you can actually become numb to
Yeah,
certain things.
because I was just gonna say that's like an emotional response to that too. That you're shutting down
Yes,
emotionally, and you're closing off
I'm
like
closing everything off.
everything down,
Yes,
and good emotion, bad emotion,
that
there's
emotion,
no emotion.
everything
All the
is shut
emotions is being
down.
shut down. I agree. I hear you.
Yes.
One of
So
the other ones is when you're is the resentment, right? Being having
yes, when
resentment for
people act
people
out,
act out.
yeah.
Yeah, and you know of from that and you're not being heard, you're resenting other people if you
Who
especially
is?
is being heard, right?
Yes.
And we've been in places where we felt there was like flavors of the month.
Oh yes. Oh my
Right?
God.
When the flavor of the
Of the
month,
month.
and you got the flavor of the month, and you're in that place. So one of the things that we want to do is, well, when these things are happening, we want to talk about ways to overcome them. Right?
Yes.
What we could do. So we want you to stay tuned to
And
that.
we just want to say you now you're listening to Together We Rise. We'll be right back with more of how you can overcome not being hurt.
Nikia Tull. 6 Ways to Conquer Your Fear. Do you find it difficult to overcome fear? If yes, 6 Ways to Conquer Your Fear is what you need in your life. Fear-causing situations are unavoidable. Thus, one must learn to defend themselves. This book can serve as the guiding light in your pursuit of overcoming fears. Meanwhile, you'll develop the exceptional mental strength needed to fight. By articulating the multitude of fears faced by the author and how she battled with each one, she has made an effort to lessen your burden. This exquisitely written book will teach you how to face worries and hardships as you continue reading. So what are you waiting for? Grab your copy and empower yourself to be fearless.
Welcome to Together We Rise podcast show. My name is Sean.
I'm Nikia, and this show is dedicated to help you become relentless and inspired,
Help you build your self-confidence and empower you.
and help the community move from surviving to thriving. Have you ever felt like you was yelling into a hurricane wind
Well, yeah, and no one's hearing you.
and your voice is being snatched away?
Well, you know, that happens to so many people today.
So tune in to see how to change those dynamics in your life. So don't miss out on this life-changing word. Follow us on all our social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram.
TikTok and YouTube. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so that you can get all the updates of our great content to come. All right, this is Together We Rise. This is Sean,
Nikia.
and we are back, and we are talking about when you not feeling heard, right?
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about this because we just came away with some different things that people do when they're not feeling heard. You know, just to recap, we had some like people act out or people become passive aggressive, right?
Or withdrawal.
Yep, and shut down emotionally.
And act out.
And act out, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, you also have some things where you start resenting people who are being heard.
Yes.
And like it's definitely like we was doing the last thing, which I know I just haven't touched on this, the flavor of the month group of people, right?
Yes.
And yeah,
And we actually have seen that in organizations where, you know, you start off there and because you're a rock star when you first start, you're the flavor of the month. And then the new person come along who become the new rock star. So now it seems like all your accomplishments or accolades that you did is non-existent because now it's this new person, the new, as they say, the new sheriff in town.
Right, yeah.
So that's the new flavor of the month that now everybody is talking about. And you see that a lot even now with the upcoming generation and even with like songs or even actors. One moment, you know, our daughter is liking this person and then, you know, next month we still thinking she liking this person. Like, no, that's old, mom. You know, this is the new thing now.
Yep.
So you see that a lot. And that actually causes some down spiral. But what are some things that can help people overcome when they feel like they're not being heard in a positive way? We already saw what can happen in that rabbit hole that they can go down into. We call it the dark rabbit hole. But
so
now
wait, before that, because I think that's important because we want to get, because I know that's going to be a saying that we use a lot, going down the rabbit hole.
Going down that rabbit hole.
Explain that and where that came. So let's say that. So going down the rabbit hole, that's something that we came up with Alice in Wonderland, right? And you know, you go down, and she went down the rabbit hole and went further and further and further down. And we kind of look at that as when I call it the negative feedback loop. right?
Yes.
So you have a negative feeling about action. The action becomes bad, therefore give you more negative feelings. So then you have more negative feelings, which are going to get more negative results. Therefore, give you more negative feelings. Then you have more negative results. And it's a loop. It's a negative
Mm-hmm.
feedback loop that brings you worse and worse down, and cause you to usually retreat,
Yeah.
run
Or
away,
go into a deep depression, or you
depressed.
have anxiety or
Hmm.
stress. So all that comes along with going into the rabbit hole.
Right.
But the biggest question most people have is, when I'm there, how do I turn it around? How
Yes.
do I now switch all this negative that I've put on top of negative, and now turn it into positive, where I can now gradually pull myself out of that hole?
Now, go ahead. So,
So
what's the first thing you think?
for me, because again, mine is isolation. So the biggest
Hmm.
thing that keeps me in the rabbit hole is the self-talk. So one of the things that I realized is, one, be aware of where you're at.
Yeah.
So that's one of the first things that
Yeah.
I had to do, is come to grips on, okay, Kia, why are you isolated? What is the stories you're telling yourself? Because it's not really the outside elements that's affecting it. It's the stories that you tell yourself. And I'm gonna give you one example, because me and my husband been in business, and we say you have an appointment set up with a client, and now the client is a no call, no show to the appointment. And the first thing you tell yourself is, "Oh, I knew they was gonna cancel on me anyway. Oh, I knew they wasn't gonna show up." But you still haven't heard from that person whether an accident had happened, whether they got sick. You don't know. So now you're basing your feelings on this person off of the negative story that you tell yourself.
Yep.
So one of the things me and my husband had came up with to pull ourselves out of that hole is, tell yourself a story that's going to give you a positive feeling.
Yep.
I mean, you don't have to always go negative. In that time, right in that time and moment, as soon as your mind starts going to somewhere negative, switch that from a negative story to something that's going to be fulfilling to you, that's going to really actually help you and prevent you from going down that rabbit hole.
I like that one because a lot of times we kind of come up with things, and you call it get stories that's
Yes.
actually negatively impacting your whole
Day.
day. You just ruined your rest of your day because of that story. Now the thing is, the story is not true or not, and we don't know what the story is. So, but my thing is, you might as well use a story that's going to improve your day. So if you say, well, obviously something had to happen that they did not come, that and you put it in that was that you're now concerned for the person, that you're, hey, I prayed for that person, and they I'm gonna reach back out. And you know how many times that we have done that,
Yes.
and actually it was like, hey, well, I don't know if it's true or not when they said it to me, but they're saying, hey, their dog died, or there was a car accident, da, 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 da. But what that meant was, hey, they also reset the appointment,
Yes.
and we had a positive outlook on that instead of it already being negative. Another thing I think that's very important it's the same way as the self-talk, because one of the things that we know, life and death is in the power
Power
of
of
the
the
tongue.
tongue. That's
So it's just being being in the area that you're positively saying and affirmations. One of the things that I feel is very important is that before you go into an area, you could set the atmosphere of yourself.
Yes.
What I mean is that no matter how upset or angry somebody else is or whatever, you could have joy and peace in yourself
In yourself.
if you decide you're going to have joy and peace, right? Because
That's it.
because that's a decision. That's one of the things that I think we have to get to and talk about. That don't let outward elements if affect your personal
Exactly.
stance. So, but your personal stance could affect the
The
outside
outside elements,
elements.
yes, because we're created to live from the inside out, not the outside in. So we have everything in us to actually control the outside elements and not let outside elements control us. And that's where the power in the tongue, but knowing certain scriptures of the Bible that can actually, you can speak out loud.
That's
And
right.
that's called the word of faith, being able to speak the word of faith out loud in those times of situations and circumstances where the negativity wants to come in, but you can combat that with something positive, just having a word of faith. So what
Actually,
is one of
but
your scriptures
well,
that
well, actually, before I get to it, what I'm going to just go exactly on that is that we know other people might not hear us, but one thing I'm so glad about is that God hears us. And
exactly?
so, it says in Psalms 34, it says, "See, the righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them." So one of the things, and He delivers them from all their
Trouble.
trouble, right? And so
Yes.
one of the things that I know is that God hears me. So when one of I think a lot of times, even in those decisions, those times, we don't cry out. We crying out or yelling out or mad, but we have how many times we actually put all that care on all those cares and those upsetness, actually giving it to God.
That's it.
And I know. So one of those scriptures is that I'm in perfect peace. If my mind stayed in front of Jesus, I'm in
Jesus, yeah.
perfect peace. So one of the things, if
He
I
would
want to be
definitely keep
peace,
you in
you go
perfect
be
peace.
peace. Yeah, all hell, as they say, could be breaking out around you, but you still could be at peace. How about
And
you?
one of the other things is Isaiah 65:24, when it says, "Before they even call, I'm there to answer." So that means God is always listening. While they're even still speaking, He's hearing you. So even though you might feel like outside people are not hearing you, outside people you feel like you not being heard. But one thing I can always say is that your Heavenly Father is constantly hearing. He's constantly there with that listening ear to hear whatever you have to say. And I mean, one of the things that I say, He loves to know what's
Yeah,
going on with your day. He loves it when you have a conversation with Him in your car, just on your daily occupation, just having that one-on-one talk with Him. I know I had started doing that even in my car and even at work. And sometimes the conversation gets so good with my Heavenly Father that I be talking out loud and people come in like, "Who you talking to?" And I be like, "Oh, I'm just talking to my daddy." You just don't understand. My daddy listen. They be like, "Yo, daddy." Yes, my Heavenly Father, He hears everything that
absolutely.
I say. And the point about it, He takes it to heart and He comes in the time of need.
Yep. So those are just some things. Now, what we're going to do after this is go into some practical things you could also do to maybe make sure that you are heard by other people when we come
And
back.
just want to let you know, you are tuned in to Together We Rise, and we'll be right back after these messages.
The future of health. Health is coming. Change your life in just 30 seconds. Everything your body needs. Made in the USA. Absorbed within 30 seconds. Organic and non-GMO. 10 times more effective than pills. Easy to use on the go. And Vision U, the future of health, in your hands.
Coming to you, Together We Rise, June the 5th, from 6 to 7. Don't miss it. Every Wednesday, 6 to 7, tune in to Together We Rise. We will be talking about communities coming together, churches coming together, and individuals coming together. Because one thing we do know, divided we will fall, but together we will rise.
What is a living trust document? A living trust document is an essential and integral part of the estate planning documents. It's the most efficient and quickest way to transfer estate assets to named beneficiaries upon the grantor's death. With a revocable living trust, the grantor controls all the estate assets. It's the best way possible to avoid probate. The grantor also chooses the successor trustee. This person will manage the estate assets upon grantor's death. All living trusts guarantee that the grantor's wishes will be honored and followed. They are not subject to any kind of interpretation, but subject to implementation. Taking action today gives you the peace of mind, knowing that you control the disposition of your estate assets. Time waits for no one, and neither does probate. We at I4 Global Incorporated understand the significance of having a comprehensive estate plan. We provide specialized services to assist individuals and families with the details of estate planning. You can trust that I4 Global Incorporated will handle your loved one's estate with care and respect. Please contact us today to learn more about our estate planning services.
And we're back with Together We Rise. My name is Nikia.
I'm Sean.
And we are here letting you know how to overcome not being heard. And as we had left off at, letting you know that your Heavenly Father is always there to hear whatever you have to say. So having that one-on-one talk with Him is always good. Like I said, people thought I was crazy for a long time. But you know what? Those conversations with me and my daddy upstairs get good sometimes, right?
That's right. And again, we're going to be talking a lot about inside out power, right?
Yes.
Being living inside out, not outside in. And this is some things, and I think this is important. So if you're in college, if you are a young adult, if you are in your 30s or 40s, or if you are in your 50s, if you I don't care where you at, these are things that anyone can use, and that you can see how they could start transforming and changing. One of the things I believe and very much in is making sure that you know you're in control, not other people.
Yeah.
When I say that, it's that when bad things happen, and one of the things that I try to do is say, hey, I take responsibility, or I taking responsibility of my actions, not what so a lot of times people want to put all the power on them. They're doing this to me and they're doing that to me. Now here's the thing, is that they might be, but the thing is, you can't control what anybody else does. Exactly. Right? And trying to control what other people do, it's going to be crazy. It actually going to drive you crazy and never going to actually succeed. You're never going to move forward. So one of the things you have to do is control the one thing you can control, and that's you. Right?
Yeah, we always say that you can only control your attitude and your response to any situation. You can't worry about what other people do, and you can't set expectations for others. I always use this: be impatient with yourself, but be patient with others.
Yep.
And what that means is, because you can only control you, you can't worry about what other people do. And that's how you can now start controlling your outside elements. By being concerned. I used to always say this to our children all the time, because they always used to come to us and say, well, such and such said this about me, and such and such said that about me. And one of the things we used to always say, if you say it, you own it. If they say it, they own it. So only thing that you need to be worried about, or only thing that you need to concern yourself about, is what you think about yourself and what you answer to. You don't have to answer to everything.
That's exactly right. So that's where it's so important for you to make sure you're thinking good about yourself, that you're speaking well about yourself, that you understand who you are and that you are valuable. Right? No matter what somebody else says, you are valuable. You are worthy. You have things to contribute. Yeah. And the thing is, if you feel that way, you acknowledge that, and you keep that power, and you keep that even though where you at this moment might not be the place you're supposed to be, but you be able to take that information to someplace else, and where you can thrive and excel. So one of the things that we talk a lot about also is this system called the STAR system.
That's it.
And this STAR system is actually, we do a full workshop about that in our relationship workshops and things in that nature. But let's talk about the STAR system real quickly. Can you break down
The STAR
Sip?
system is basically a personality trait, and people communicate based off of their type of personality. So when you look at the STAR system, S actually stands for stability. That's more of a person that's very structured, organized. They're very predictable. They don't like change. They're very difficult to change things. They like things staying the same. They love routines. They love tradition. They love rules. They love doctrines and stuff like that. So that's more of a stability person. They want that stability.
Yeah.
And then T actually stands for
I like to call it technical. They're technical people. They like theories. They like thinking. Right, there are people who they like putting big ideas together, and they like breaking things down from that. Right, they're big thinkers. They're a lot of times the most technical people, or playing with gadgets, or working in that area. And they're also theory driven, so they also might like big thinking and theories of that nature. Then the next one is your action, or A for action.
So that's your action oriented people. These are the ones that's going to be the life of the party. They're not worried about rules. They hate being put in a box. They want to be having the flexibility. We call them chameleons, because any place that you put them in, they can adapt to their environment. And they're the people that talk very fast. They're, every time that they share a story, they're very animated. They're very outgoing. They're very loud. They love music. They love party. They love stuff that glitters. So these are the people
They
that's
love
going
money.
to be in fashion. Yes, they definitely love money. You want to pull them in. You're talking about money. You're going to have them tuning in to what you have to say. You're talking about fashion. You're talking about having a good time. These
Standing
people
out.
with this personality trait will be there, and they're the ones that actually stand out.
And then you have your R for relationship. And relationship people they're basically driven to be inclusive. They want the best for other people. They also sometimes looking to help other people more than themselves. They also the ones who are maybe doing mission type things, like they might be really important to them about non-profit groups, like helping the animals, or helping the trees, or helping the squirrels, or helping keep things well wherever that is. They're that group. They don't care about money necessarily. They don't not necessarily care about the big picture or being structured. They're really, hey, how can we all just get along? All right. And now the reason why we brought this up, because we have found in our business life, is that if you don't know how a person is, and basically each one of those people will have a specific communication. They're going to be talking in a language, and a lot of times you're talking in your own language, right? But you have to learn how to adapt and talk in the language of other people.
And that was one of the things me and Sean had to learn when we came into business together. We were always bumping heads. I still remember when I first brought him into business and wanted him to be my business partner in financial education. Boy, when he first got in there, I'm like, man, I should have left his HomePods at home. but over time, we found our lanes and our role. But the biggest thing that helped us was this STAR system. Once I learned his personality and how to communicate, he's more of a person that would want me to communicate with options, say a lot of stuff with questions and everything like that. But I was communicating the way I like to be communicated to, and I don't like people asking me.
I always say my wife is one of the best people that tell people what to do. She loved telling people what to do. I mean, and she thought it was a question. I was like, how was that a question? Like, take that outside. Like, that was not a question. Like, that wasn't an option. I'm like, you just said take it outside, but I was just giving that as an option for you. Anyway, but, for some part is that we have to realize that we also is in the opposite. If I say to you, well, you could take the garbage out, or you could do this, or you could do that, to you, that's like very accurate.
Too many options.
That's very
Just give me one option, because what if I pick the wrong option? So what if I want to do it later and he wanted me to do it now? So now, he's looking at, you gave me options.
Correct.
So because I'm structured, it's just, hey, let me know the direction and what you want done, and I can get the job done.
Yep.
Where in a theory person, which his language is, give me options. Don't put me in a box. So that was things that we had to learn, and with not having that, it was a lot of miscommunication. And I think that's a lot of things that happen along the way at work with your kids and relationships. It's a lot of miscommunication because of the lack of understanding the other person's language and how to communicate to them where it can be effective, where now everybody is being heard and no one is walking away feeling like that they were not heard, that they were overlooked or ignored.
So one of the things I think, like, and we just had a relationship seminar back in February,
Yes.
and we're doing pulling together a workshop about relationship, and this STAR system is fully pulled out, right? Especially about relationships, and this transcends any one type of relationship. So,
Yes.
and what I mean by that, there's work relationships, there's husband wife relationships, your children relationships. There's
Mother is
your
aunts and
uncles, your
relationships,
family,
to
yep,
cousins, to friends.
yep. So
Even sometimes being able to communicate with your enemies. I know sometimes we be like, we don't want to, but every now and then, someone who has hurt you, you run back across them, and you have to be able to know how to communicate with them without escalating it
Yep.
to
So
something else.
I would say this: you want to get with that. So you want to check out our page. Get in touch with us about some of our relationship seminars and different things that we're doing. You are going to be in a treat when you get that.
So we want to say thank you again for tuning in to Together We Rise. Welcome to Together We Rise. I'm Nikia.
And I'm Sean, and we're here to talk about the Rise Women's Conference that's coming up on
July the 13th and 14th. And we have one of our keynote speakers here, Lady Ruby.
Lady Ruby. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, nice to be with you all today. My name is Ruby Perry. I was born and raised in Edenton, North Carolina. I'm the eldest of four. After graduating from high school, I spent a little time at North Carolina Central University. Then I went into the United States Army. And from there, I became a member with the Raleigh Police Department here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I left Raleigh in 2007, where I ended up joining the Sheriff Department in Currituck County. And once there, after getting ordained as a minister, I became the chaplain with the Sheriff Department. And I ended up retiring in September 2015 as a Detective 2 with Currituck County Sheriff's Department.
Wow. Well, can you tell us a little bit more about your ministry?
Yes. Well, the ministry that I did with the Sheriff Department, I end up going into the jail cells and ministering to the women that were incarcerated there. And since all of that, I'm currently married to Apostle Gerald Isaac Perry Jr., and we have been married for 5 years. And now I am part of his ministry and working side by side with him for 5 years now since we've been married. And that is the Apostolic Kingdom Fellowship Network. But he's been he's had that ministry now for about 15 years.
Wow, that is so awesome.
That's amazing. I love that. So tell us a little bit that you're going to be, because you're going to be one of the keynote speakers at our conference. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about.
I will be speaking on the letter I, which is influence. And that when Nikia asked me to do this, I was just looking at all the letters, and one of the main reasons why I chose influence, I thought about two people from two perspectives. I thought about someone in the natural, who was a great influence, and that was Martin Luther King, and then of course Jesus Christ himself. And Martin Luther King, of course, we know he was a great person. He pushed for equal rights for everyone, and not only did he influence Black people, but he also influenced Caucasians and other races.
That's great. And you know what? So what would you say you want people to take away from your message on that day?
I want people to take away that regardless of what type of background that they have, whether it's positive or negative, and mainly negative, as we grow in Christ, our mindset should change. We should have the mindset of Christ. And so when we're walking with Christ, we should put those things behind that some of us may be ashamed of, because we all have a past. And I want women to realize that if they're focusing on their now, and if they're focusing on them being better, then the things that they have experienced in life, that them talking about that, their testimony can influence other people not to walk down that same path.
That's right.
That's awesome. So, tell our audience why it's so important for women to attend this event.
Well, I think it's great to attend this event because I think there are going to be four powerful women on this platform. And I think each and every woman would have something to say that whomever comes and attend this conference can take away something will prick them in their spirit, that they can take away from this conference, and that they can go back and share with others. And that's what we're supposed to do anyway. We're supposed to, each and every one of us who are followers of Christ are called to evangelize. And so whether it's their daughter, their mother, or a cousin or a friend, they can take something away from this. I believe that they'll be able to take something away from this conference that they can go and share with others.
All right, so you heard it here yourself, right here at Together We Rise. Please scan the QR code below and the promo code, type in radio, and you'll get a $5 discount.
That's right, and you can also click the link and put in the $5 the radio code as a discount, or you could give us a call and also get that $5 discount.
That's so true. So you do not want to miss this conference that's going to be held on July the 13th and 14th. You want to make sure that you are there. And remember to follow us on Facebook and Instagram,
TikTok and YouTube, and don't forget to
like, share, and subscribe.
Now remember, if we are divided, we will fall,
and together we will rise.